I would like to introduce our next writer, Danae Grandison. She's going to be joining us just a moment. Yes, cheer! Oh, cheer! Oh, she's coming to the stage. And she's going to be presenting a pitch for the bed. And welcome, Danae!
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Hi, thank you all for being here. And I'm excited that Conch not only is screening a short film that is based off this feature film, but has given me the opportunity to pitch. And I'd like to welcome you to The Bedhead. It's a deeply evocative adaptation of Jennifer Graham's novel set in the affluent hills of Upper St. Andrew, Jamaica. And my name is Danae Grandison. I'm a Jamaican born and raised storyteller now based in Brooklyn, New York. Here with a story that resonates with me from my younger days from being raised in this world. This will be my first feature film for which I have adapted and will direct. The story captivates me because it answered a question I've always had about the power dynamics and challenges that the conventional relationships that exist between the domestic worker and the family she serves. Though she becomes the integral part of this household, she's still mistreated. She's seen as lesser than simply because she's poor and Black. The pervasive use of domestic workers may be common in society, but that does not make the deeply ingrained power dynamics that we're exploring, the pervasive use of domestic workers may be common in society, but that does not make the injustice right. The Bedhead sheds light on these deeply ingrained power dynamics and exploring the intersection of race, class, privilege in the ways that are often left unspoken. An additional note of why this book meant so much to me or spoke to me, it also tethers in what I call the scandal of Jamaica or things that happen in the whisper. And it is the mere fact that men or young boys can find themselves in their helper's room. And to me, it perplexed me because she is an extension of the mother. She's the caregiver. Why and how? And this book finally painted a story to me that went beyond the whisper, the gossip one line, the friend that I heard of whose father did run away with her mother to help, the friend who is the granddaughter of a woman that was a helper, or the woman that is adopted and the helper is disregarded and she's raised in the house. The wife somehow accepts. So with all these just bites of information, this book actually painted a world that I was interested in understanding. So The Bed is a provocative double journey drama between Icy and Carolyn. When Carolyn discovers her husband has slept with Icy, everyone's life changes. Icy is forced into exile with Harry to an unknown future with no agency over her life. The Bedhead follows Icy, a domestic worker burdened by her family needs, and Carolyn, the pregnant wife of a wealthy man, as their lives collide in a turbulent love triangle set against a Jamaica only spoken in the whispers of scandal. When Carolyn discovers her husband Harry's interest in Icy, jealousy and rage ignite. Both women, victims of the circumstances, has Carolyn plotting for her security, while Icy dreams of a different life. Their paths will cross in unexpected ways, forcing them to confront their past and redefine their futures in a society that seeks to confine them. This story is about two women, Icy and Carolyn, whose lives become inextricably linked through betrayal, societal pressure, and personal transformation. The bedhead, an antique item brought into the home by Carolyn, becomes a symbol of betrayal and a haunting memory of the night Harry's secret became known. We'll be exploring themes and through this with intense emotion and intricate storytelling, the film will explore themes of power versus race, agency over privilege, and race versus class. The tone will be dramatic and provocative, with moments of tension and emotional depth, ultimately leaning towards the hope and self-discovery. When we meet Icy, we're going to meet a woman who had to become a high school dropout. Her mother ran away, abandoned the family, and she lost her childhood at that moment when she felt she was compelled to help her father care for her siblings. We witnessed her navigate this uptown world, and when all she really wants is agency over her own life for the first time. And when we meet Carolyn, she's a woman, she's an antagonist and slash a protagonist because of a double journey. But she's a woman that married into wealth. She didn't come from a big family. She's upper middle class or middle class. She's passing. And she fed into the world of Harry because he gave her status. And she had very little ambition beyond that. She was pregnant. She dealt with his indiscretions. But in the heart of it all, when she discovered Icy, that one was like a nail in the coffin. It also incited prejudices she didn't realize she had. And she inflicted, she imposed, and wanted out. But she was not leaving unscathed, and she wanted to make sure she could still exist in this world that she married into. Harry, problem maker, child of privilege, legacy, wealthy, can do whatever he wants, has enjoyed having lovers and doing whatever he wants in Carolyn's life, with her being aware, not caring how she felt, but always knew he gave her what she needed. But when Icy came along, it was that needle in the haystack, and he had to have it. He had to have her, and he couldn't release her. So this man becomes a central conflict that just exposes or explodes the lives of these two women. We're going to have this film set in Jamaica, which is a very necessary for me because the story takes place against the backdrop of the two distinct settings of the affluent hills of Upper St. Andrew and the remote rugged terrain of Guava Ridge and the Blue Mountain, with peaks into rural central village, which is where Icy's from. And it will capture these contrasting worlds. I've got some pictures for you. These contrasting locations between the characters' emotional journeys. Carolyn's world is of wealth, a prison of social expectations, while Icy's escaped to the mountains offers freedom and entrapment. Sorry. The tone of the film is tense, atmospheric, and evocative, drawing the rich cultural and physical landscapes of Jamaica. The visual style will feature rich, vibrant colors reflecting the Jamaican landscape with intimate close-ups during the emotional scenes. With the cinematography to capture the contrast, not only between the social economic lives lived, but also the feelings that the women are actually sitting and living through. So I think my film demographic audience is from 25 to 65. It'll target adults and young adults interested in the powerful character-driven dramas that explore societal issues, particularly those related to gender and race, and it will appeal to viewers of films like Precious or The Help. A bonus will be children of domestic workers. And I say that with my short film Unspoken, which is just a snippet of what the breadth of this book is. When I've shown it to those that are children born of these circumstances, it's amazing to see their own reaction, to imagine, A, did their mother have this experience? Or B, could this have been what their grandmother went through? I've looked at comps like Queen Sugar because it looks at race and the complexities of power and privilege with the confines of that plantation mentality, along with Precious because it had a raw depiction of resilience amidst poverty while fighting for a better life. So my project is projected to be a budget of $1 million, and filming in Jamaica is essential for its authenticity, with local talent for representation and local crew for the opportunity and the economy. So while Jamaica's Film Commission is actively advocating for better tax breaks, Jamaica has offered its first film grant, to which the Bedhead is under review for. As my marketing, I want to do the film festival circuit, and of course, have a premiere somewhere in a theater possible. But I see this marketing with potential to be leveraged starting the festival run, as well as with a social media focus on female empowerment. I'm looking for endorsements with organizations for domestic workers to further enhance visibility and conversation. I'm currently in conversation with Jamaica's Household Workers Union, hoping to form an alliance so that at the end of my film, I can open up a Q&A that invites more questions, because I'm only telling a story to a larger story. There are so many other for instances, and I want to still give room to them all. And I would like to partner with a Jamaican coffee brand by offering them further visibility never seen on screen. Although Jamaica Blue Mountain Coffee does not necessarily need it, it stands well on its own. But I would really like to introduce us to what it means when we are up in Guava Ridge in the coffee region, and how can I collaborate with a brand that would like that visibility. So The Bedhead is more than an adaptation of a powerful woman-led story. With its rich characters and poignant themes telling an untold story from this perspective, this film promises to resonate deeply with a global audience, sparking conversation about autonomy. Why this project? I want to challenge women in position of power to consider what real choice looks like versus merely surviving. I want women to not also feel as if another woman would choose this, because some of us fall to that. I'm looking at this through the lens of culture and the ways in which we have normalized trauma. The book is based on a real story from more privileged point of view, but I took a keen interest in the point of view of the helper and her feelings of being trapped and how she navigates this world. I'm looking for like-minded thinkers that sees the value with having this conversation and have it continue to, as it continues to transcend time, because it's not over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Very nervous.
You are fantastic.
Oh, my fumbles. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start the conversation. Let's start with, oh, everybody shift. How did a shift occur? Hold on. Okay, so Seon, you were the last person before, so you're gonna be the first person. I'm trying to shift the focus, so feel free to share your questions or thoughts. Seon.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. I know how like harrowing it could be to be pitching, so you did a great job.
Thank you.
There's yeah, I haven't read the book, so there's just some things that stood out to me. I thought it was like really interesting, but I'm gonna start first with the first slide. So it's like it starts off with like a Jamaica you haven't seen. Now, I have my knowledge base, but I think for just general, if you're going to be pitching, I would have liked for you to set the tone of what this actually means. So what is the Jamaica that we're going to see? You know, how are domestic workers treated in this space? What are the social dynamics of it? So you can kind of bring us into the world, because I don't want to project onto the project. I want you to tell me like what it is that this world actually is. And so, yeah, you said a lot about the themes, which I think are really wonderful themes. But in terms of like I see and Harry and Carolyn, I didn't quite get what they wanted. What are they working towards in this film? What's the conflict? Like, yes, they're caught in a conflict and a dynamic because of the privileged space and everything, but what are their desires with each other? What are their desires in life? And like how are they butting heads in that way? Because the themes are, while they're really wonderful, they're a bit vague. So it's like, how does this set apart? How you're going to tell the film going to be set apart? Because there's a lot of films with these themes, but how is this different? And how are these characters different? And what are we going to get from them? What else did I write? Oh, okay. So you mentioned the comps also. You said the first slide before you went to explaining Precious, you wrote Precious and the Help. Those are really different films, I think, tonally. So I didn't really maybe if you could have elaborated how the help could have is it just thematically or is it just tone? Because that was very like I think
forgot to
polished
take it out.
Hollywood. Yeah.
I
Okay.
forgot to take it out. This is when you keep noodling
No
something.
problem.
But thank you for that catch.
No problem. But those are just the things that stood out to me the most, what I really would have loved for you to like dive deeper into. Because I think projects like this really thrive on its specificity
Mhm.
and how you're connected to it, how you're going to bring it to life. Because that's, that's what's going to make it unique and that's really going to, grasp us and make us want to see it. But otherwise, I thought it was really wonderful. And yeah, I hope you guys make the project.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your notes.
Thank you so much, Sammy. Janae? We're going backwards.
Okay. Yes, no, great presentation. With your pitch deck, I honestly would say that the way that you laid it out was correct, but just the things to fill in and well, the questions that I had are who are the characters? Like, and I'm glad I'm second because I hate to repeat, but like who are the characters? I really didn't get their story and how like their relevance. What are you trying to really capture your audience with? Like what is bringing them in to want to follow along with their journey, even though this would be a feature film? Like what are they following along and why? Why is it important? Or is Jamaica really the main character? And if so, Jamaica, you really see like what are we seeing? Because I've been there. I know some things about Jamaica, but outside of Scandal, what story are you showing? I really do like the idea of bringing in local brands. I think that's a nice touch, but it's not about them. So yeah, just developing the story, like really going back to the book. I didn't read the book either, but going back to the book and see like what drew you to that story and how can you depict that on screen.
Thank you so
And
much.
that is all.
Janae.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa.
Hi, first, really nice job with the pitch. You were engaging. It was really tight. And I agree with what has been said. What I will add is in terms of this story, what makes it relatable and current is female empowerment and taking agency. And while I see the growth and agency with Icy, I really don't with Carolyn. She just sort of seems to be on the same level. And at the end, it's Harry took care of her problem. She didn't take care of her problem. And while it was a surprise that Harry did that, Carolyn had no effect on that. And I don't know, because I also have not read the book, I don't know how much latitude you have in terms of changing it. But I would love to see what Carolyn's journey, because this at its essence is a story of two women and their journeys and how they come together. And with the script, when they came together at the end, which I wonder if that maybe they start crossing paths sooner, it really came to life because it was really interesting to see how time sort of changed the sentiments. But I think it's important because Carolyn is a protagonist that you do need to see whether or not she's fighting it, but you don't, like has been said, you don't really know her beyond the surface, and you really need to try and expand on who these characters are because you want to follow them, especially in a feature. We're taking the journey. What makes this journey different? Because we have seen stories about cheating spouses and, certainly how women can be treated as less than. So what makes this different? And I think that is very, very, very key. Also, one small thing, because this is called the bedhead and the bed is such a pivotal part, I really did not get a sense that that bed was haunting her. And that is so much a part, you know, it's the title, it's part of it at the end, you know, when she sends the bed to Icy, all of that. But up until then, the bed has no focus. And is it a character? And if so, that just needs to be expanded a little bit more.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
And next we have Steve.
Thanks. I wasn't keeping track. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, the boxes moved. I'm trying to figure out where were those boxes. Right?
It's really me, but you can allow Steve to look off my notes again. Go ahead.
Okay.
So Danae, congratulations on, I heard you say you were nervous, and I totally get the nerves in this pitching space, and I didn't see that. I mean, except there were a couple of times when you stumbled and you were like, oh, and you sort of spoke to it. So I guess one thing I would support you in is you don't have to speak to it. Like, you don't know what we're seeing. So to point yourself, you don't need to necessarily do that. I have a couple of small things. One is, you talked about the book, and you talked about these cultural aspects that you were interested in following. And I felt like there's an opportunity for you to tell us really specifically why. You didn't say, I love this book because when I was a child, this happened and I saw this and this led to this. And so now I need to, right? And I really feel like in these spaces, for better or worse, you really have to, there's really an opportunity to spell it out for us, because we don't know your history, your background, what you're thinking, what you relate to. And to give us the passion to really tell us what those things are is really key, I think. The other thing is, I hope, and you don't have to answer this, but I hope you have a connection with the author, the publisher. I hope you've gotten the blessing to do. Obviously,
yeah, man. I have the right.
Great, because you've got your short film, you're showing it around, all that stuff. So great, I'm glad to hear that. Technically, I would be careful of how much text you put on screen on a slide, because when there's that much and you're saying everything, I have the choice of either reading it or listening to you.
Me. Yeah. And
if I read it, I'm not listening to you, and you want me listening to you.
Fair.
So I would be careful of that. And then two other things. One is, you've made your short film, and yet you used photos in your slides of famous actors. So suddenly I was a little confused, because it felt like a slightly jarring space for me to be like, well, wait a minute, she's used people, but she hasn't used these people. And you happen to, interestingly enough, use people that I actually know. Like, I know Regina Wesley and Donlyn Gardner and Wentworth Miller. And I was like, oh, and it just took me out of the space. So, and that's partly because, you've made a thing already. The other thing I wanted to mention is, I would keep your comps in the entertainment space of your piece. So you're making a feature film and you referenced a TV show. And then my mind goes, wait a minute, Queen Sugar is a TV show, Precious is a movie, The Help is a movie, right? It just becomes a little confusing unnecessarily. And the last thing I would say is, if you're pitching to us and we're a production company, I love your ideas. When you say I'm in conversation with so-and-so, that's really useful. But I don't think you need to say, I want to do film festivals. Here's the marketing I want to do. Because that's our expertise, supposedly. If you're pitching to a company, like we've got a marketing department. So I would really focus on your story and just turn down the volume on those specifics. And sure, you'll be involved in those and you can offer your thoughts, but this moment is about telling us about your passion for the story itself.
Okay.
Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. And next we have, I believe, Sherando? Yeah, that was the order.
I'm right here. Am I not on screen? No?
No,
Yes?
the boxes have changed. I was doing things in order, and now there is no order. I think that's the theme of the day today. So, yeah, there is no order.
Okay. All right. Thanks again for sneaking on my notes, because my first question was going to be, what is your personal experience? What in your personal experience, rather, made this appeal to you? because it is really important that there is that personal connection to whatever it is that you're creating. It can be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you yourself had that experience. It can be that somebody you know may have had that experience, like the film that I'm working on, The Jamaican Bodyguard. It's a male lead. I've never had an experience with a bodyguard or that kind of thing, but what I've had experience with are men showing up for me and making me feel safer. And so I transfer that into the character as I build him out. So whatever that personal connection is to it, it really makes a huge difference when you are creating that story, telling that story, and certainly pitching that story, because your level of passion is going to be undoubtedly different. As a Jamaican myself, I can appreciate the Upper Sinandro issue that happens, and the fact that when you're living in Upper Sinandro, there's certain things that you just don't talk about. It's a class issue for the folks who are not Jamaican. And Upper Sinandro really are the folks with money. And and so I can relate to that aspect of it. But that's really because I'm Jamaican. If I wasn't Jamaican and I didn't understand it, I wouldn't have understood it from your pitch. So it is important that there is clarity on the story that you're telling. Never got that. And great films have clearly defined characters and beautiful conflicts. So far, when you pitched, what I saw was a conflict. I didn't understand a series of conflicts, and I also didn't get a sense of having any depth of understanding of the characters. And so therefore, I couldn't even imagine what the conflicts would be beyond one's downtown, one is uptown, one works for the other, and so on and so forth. So you want to be sure that they're more layered. Yeah. And when you're pitching, the layers are there so that the person you're pitching to understands, one, who these characters are, two, the conflicts and potential conflicts, but also that you understand what you're saying, because you're the one who's going to be writing the script. So we need to be clear that you understand the characters and understand the actual story that you're telling. I was caught up in reading what was on screen versus listening to you a part at a time. So sometimes what would have happened would be that you would have jumped. I would be reading, and then you would have read a little bit faster than me because you know what's in the material. And then you would have jumped to another slide. And then I'm trying to catch up now to listen to what the next thing that you're saying. And so my mind was kind of all over the place. So if you can use more images, if you will, because you know the material. I mean, you know the material, right? You do not need to be reading off the screen. Yeah. So I know sometimes it's nerves that does it. So, find some images, something that's interesting, so that we can look at those images while we listen to your beautiful voice, because you have a very, very nice voice, beautiful cadence and all of that. So that in and of itself would have drawn me. You are very welcome. That's pretty much it. I'll leave the rest of it for them other folks.
Thank you so much, Sherando.
You're welcome.
Thomas.
Well, I am the one following all of these amazing reviews. The character build has already been touched on. I think that focusing on your characters more, that's huge. We didn't pick up on the full story because, but there are a lot of positives, and I like to focus on the positives. I love the fact that you want to shoot in Jamaica, but you do need to give options on other island locations that might be more fitting, especially economically. Mm-hmm. I noticed the racial undertones, which I think that you should keep that as an underlying story. Don't focus on it. There's enough racial, I like to call it racial porn, going around. And then I enjoyed the fact that you actually did some economic consideration and told us how much it was going to cost. What about the Jamaican grant? That's always a positive when people hear that there's some money maybe or possibly coming. It may make it easier for you to raise funds. And yeah, I'm with Steve when he said that no need to mention the festivals. There's no need. It's understood that there's going to be some type of marketing push behind it, but you do need to focus on your comps. And when you say you want to shoot in a location and you've already shot, I'd love to see some images from the short. What does your shooting look like? What is your eye? Who's your DP? Because you've already shot something, that may be a selling point. That DP may have done something that I've seen already. And so use the assets that you have. And if you've already shot something and you've got actors that would be willing participants on the next project, it may have been good in your short. Sharing that link might not be a bad idea as well. Letting us see what you've done. Previous work is a good it's a good idea to see that and go, okay, I know what this person can do, or this person's learning here, and I can assess where the majority of my work is going to be just by looking at your short film and what you did with nothing, which is what I always when I make a short, it's like, hey, I didn't have anything. Just imagine if you poured, $1 million into this project, what I can do when I show you what I've done with nothing.
Yep.
It doesn't hurt,
Fair enough. Thank you.
but
Thank
well
you so
done.
much. Thank you.
Thank
Conch.
you.
Next, we have Viktoria Isabella.
Okay, I have a bunch. So just
But
thinking
we
about
have to
time.
keep it short to 2 minutes.
Yes, just
Yes.
thinking about time. I'm gonna just ram through it, and I hope that you can hear me, understand me, and know that's all meant from a place of love. Okay, so the first thing I could say is that your short is reflective of your pitch deck, but your pitch deck is not reflective of the feature that you want to make. Because I remember your short, and yeah, I remember it. So okay, let's go through them. You should speak of the female characters as individuals and not necessarily just by their title. They should be much more developed than that. It's just the worker, the helper. It's like, no, she has a name. There's so much more to her than just what she does for a living. The scandal should be a secret, not the main plot point. It should kind of feel like a slow burner. Like there are things that are happening and we can see them, but you don't need to really spell them out for us, right? We could trust the audience for that. Carolyn, no, let me pass that. Carolyn sees herself in IC. Should she not look like what? Oh, yeah. So perhaps there's an opportunity where Carolyn does see herself in IC, where it's not just like, oh, you're different and you're doing this with my husband, et cetera, et cetera. Like there's something else deeper there. And it could be that if she didn't marry or she didn't look the way she did, that would be her trajectory, so there's something that we can explore that's deeper. Making a man an animal, just like he just wants her, it's not great. I think men don't operate from that space. They operate from space of love or desire or entitlement or power, and really figure out what it is that really makes him feel like he can live into these two worlds. Speaking of two worlds and contrasts, I feel like everyone has a contrast. The way that you outlined it feels like Icy's contrast is survival plus freedom. She's sort of straddling those. Carolyn is autonomy and trauma. That's what I was able to gather from your pitch. And then his is desire and entitlement, which doesn't really also make him a full-fledged human being. It just makes him kind of an animal. So I understand the philandering aspect of it, but he's also a human being, right? So there's so much more to him, just like there's so much more to them. Better references. I think you should watch a beautiful film called The Handmaiden. It's like it's perfection. It's from Park Chan-wook, which is one of my favorite directors. I invite you to watch that because I think that is in alignment with where you're actually going. The budget does, like, your pitch deck does not read 1 million for a budget at all. And I know that you had certain stars, and so you should just be a bit more realistic because you can have a feature version of this film without that kind of budget. $1 million sounds great, but there's a lot that you can do, especially in Jamaica. There's a lot more that you have access to land-wise, resource-wise. So just be mindful of that. You don't need to strive that high in order to get it done, right? And get it done smartly. I'm wrapping up. All right. So the film festivals mentioned, those are film festivals that really care about story and characters over packaging and all of that. So that's just something to note. And then the last thing I would say is like, what is the overall message when you think about Caribbean storytelling from here on forward and what we want people to see from Caribbean filmmakers? What is that overall message? What is that kind of representation that you're putting in to this? It's not just like, oh, look, there's scandal in Jamaica. Maybe there's so much more to Jamaica that this is just a little sort of happenstance. Thank you.
Thank you as
so
well.
much. And lastly, Seun.
I went first.
You went first. How did your box move? Oy, oy. So we're done. So let's take a moment now. If you are interested in mentoring and assisting in the development of the pitch for Danae, please raise your hand. Thank you. All right. So you have that offer.
Yes.
We're going to take 3 minutes for the judges to take a moment and vote. You're going to vote on who you think should win this award. So take about 2 minutes and I will come back and you will announce. Thank you so much.